Hello and welcome to The Toughest Choice. I'm Stephanie Reynolds. I am beyond delighted to have Kat Cuevas with me today. And I want to tell you a little bit about Kat. Kat is currently the managing director for people and culture at the Seattle Foundation. And I love what Kat's written here around her work. I'm going to read a little bit of it. Kat's joyful work is to provide strategic leadership for a regenerative, joyful, and socially just world by leading people operations, culture, and strategy. And she also has 20 plus years of experience globally, locally, leading strategic, tactical, and leadership, organizational development, talent development, and people operations across various industries. The list is long, starting with tech and going all the way through nonprofit and even in the arts and in government. So she's got a very, very broad background. And I just want to welcome you, Kat. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Stephanie. It's such a pleasure.
Thank you. Well, I'd love to start off and just ask a little bit about your role and also a little bit about the Seattle Foundation.
Yeah, happy to. Seattle Foundation is such an incredible place and institution within the greater Seattle and King County region here in Washington state. It has an over 70-year legacy of serving the community, helping people invest in causes that make a difference, make the world more socially just. And we're continuing that bold and joyful journey of restoring the region so that everyone can thrive here. It's something that's dear to our heart, our leadership team, and every single member of our staff. So when recruiter reached out to me to explore the opportunity for this position, it was a dream come true. I was on vacation, ready for a bit of a sabbatical between roles, and I knew it was one I couldn't pass up the opportunity to be with such a strong, mission-driven group of people, especially at this point in time in the world and in the United States, was so aligned to my mission of creating regenerative world society and bringing and leading with joyful work that I was thrilled to help lead the strategy, the culture, the operations for this incredible organization.
Terrific. Terrific. Thank you. I'm so curious. I've known a number of the folks that I'm interviewing in these podcasts, as you and I have known each other for
Mm-hmm.
years now, which I'm thrilled about. I'm so curious to find out because I don't often ask this question when we've met in prior times, and that is like, what brought you to leadership? What brought
Mm.
you to wanting to lead, to be connected to leadership? What spurred that for you?
I think I've always been inclined to just have a vision to make something better. And so before even knowing what leadership was or having a leadership philosophy or any kind of positional leadership, just always had an inclination to see something. Maybe it was a little bit of Girl Scouts in me when I was younger, leave a place better than you found it was one of the mottos.
Sure.
But was always inspired by that, just at a cellular level. It's always been in my bones to do that and to have a fascination with how people can get along better and work together more effectively. And I fundamentally, again, just like in my bones, believe that almost anything is possible if we can work together effectively. And I just hold the possibility of that in my work and in anything I do and in my relationships. And I think those are really the seeds of leadership for me and what has just continued to inspire me throughout my leadership career.
Well, I so appreciate that myself, of course, because it is very similar to what brought me to leadership as well. And I'm assuming then that this bleeds over into your philosophy of how you lead and the challenges that we all face
Mm-hmm.
when we're leading. And so I'm wondering, what are you seeing today from a leadership perspective, either within your own organization or the organizations that you have the opportunity to encounter?
Yeah, what am I seeing in leadership? I'm seeing and experiencing a lot of hope from the stance that folks are really trying to figure it out, and there's a lot to figure out in leadership these days. There's any number of local and global challenges that are really wicked complex problems, not your regular problem solving kind of work. I would say the piece that gives me hope is not one leader I've talked to anywhere has said, well, I just don't know. I'm not even going to worry about it. Nobody's
Uh-huh.
hiding. Nobody's, just pretending nothing's happening. Everyone is trying to find answers and they're coming together to find answers. So while there are more problems than I can count, what I'm seeing is people really trying to figure it out and asking, what can I do? What can we do? And I
Mm.
think that despite the troubles that are going on in the world, is something that is anchoring me. And I think other leaders to keep us moving forward and adjust our leadership, because I think being able to pivot our leadership is what's being called for right now.
Well, that's so helpful. It really just states this concept, this orientation that we have. I think that many leaders feel like they're alone,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and and you're talking about kind of the opposite of that, which
Yeah.
is coming together to
Mm-hmm.
figure things out. And so there's, I think that, this podcast is designed to try and encourage leaders that are working to actually have more courage to take steps to do the right thing. And I'd love your opinion. My opinion is that we really can't do this alone. We really
No.
need each other more than
Yeah.
ever now.
Yeah. It's impossible to do it alone. And I think part of my leadership philosophy is, and mentors of mine have shared this question with me too previously, just what's possible for us to do together that we can't do alone. There's not a whole lot we can do alone. It's
Yeah,
very little, actually. And so I
yeah.
think one of the smartest things I've ever done in my career to pat myself on the back is to really engage and contribute to community learning circles in all kinds of levels. When people ask if I have a coach, I tell them I have like 4 of them on call that I meet with regularly, and 5 different leadership groups where we just come together and say, gosh, this is what's happening for me. Has someone else done it? Because there's plenty of things I've never done, and I'm going to encounter them one at a time, and sometimes 5 at a time. And there's always someone else who has encountered it. And so being able to find that connection to help pull us through is essential. It's critical. It feels lonely at times, leadership, but it's impossible to be alone at the same time.
That's great. So if people are looking for a community learning opportunity, or besides coaching and coming together in other leadership groups, a lot of individuals tend to just kind of get, so focused because the demands of their jobs are so enormous.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of locked into that environment, understandably, because it's
Yeah.
demanding. How might people just, look for opportunities to join other circles? Do you have some thoughts about that? I just would love to hear your tips, because I think they're
Yeah.
connected.
It can start internally. It can be a managers group. It can be an affinity group of any kind. It can be just a group of folks, one person from each different department that you just want to get together with once a quarter and see how
Yes.
things are going and try to problem solve things cross functionally. Local communities, your local business association. There's plenty of groups that you could do a quick Google search or ask an AI bot to help you find these days.
Yes.
It does take some experimentation. I encourage folks to try them out and not get discouraged. It's also like finding a great therapist. You might have to try a couple until you find a real connection and a match.
Yes.
So not to get discouraged, but to drop in, sit in on a meeting, or form one if you're not finding the group that really hits home for you. Find the folks that you feel most deeply connected to, and give them a call and say, hey, let's meet once a month, once a quarter.
Perfect tips. Thank you. I think that this aloneness is pretty prevalent, and people feel very overwhelmed, those that I'm talking with, many,
Mm-hmm.
and they really need to get together with other leaders to realize they're not the only ones experiencing
No.
this and the challenge, and we've been encouraging in our field,
Mm-hmm.
you and I, leaders to get together to problem solve
Yeah.
forever, independent of external conditions. And so it's a really, really encouraging way for people to solve problems and not feel like they're overwhelmed. So that's
Yeah. And it can be hard to break through that overwhelm. Leadership is a demanding job,
it's
and at
true.
the end of the day, you know, I encourage other folks, but for myself, I have to make time. It's a part of what has to happen in order
I
for me
love
to
it.
be successful.
I love it. Perfect advice. Thank you. Well, and so if I pivot now a little bit to back to kind of your way, your kind of evolution, your journey as a leader, can you share a success that you can recall that felt very successful to you in your
Yeah.
leadership journey?
Yeah. In organizational life, we use KPIs to measure things, lots of metrics. So while there's plenty of those, lots of launches, lots of programs, lots of strategies, I think for me, when I really thought about, what lands as meaningful, it's more of the micro moments. It's more of helping a team find a solution to a problem that they hadn't thought of before
Mm,
by doing something out of the box or taking a walk or just really breaking the usual thinking or helping an individual find joy in their work again when they were struggling or when someone comes to me and says, "Hey, I spoke out against, this microaggression because I saw you do it." Or whatever it might be. It's those moments that feel like the most success to me when I'm really living my mission. And whether that's in a facilitated learning space where we're doing a training, um, or a one-on-one conversation in career coaching, a staff member, or yeah, working with a team, doing some workforce planning where they think, aha, I have a new way to think about this now. Those are the moments I feel most successful when I've showed up in a way that allowed someone else to have the space and the security and the creativity and the joy to have their own breakthrough.
that you are in very good company, my dear, because I love that. There's so many leaders that want to know that what they're doing matters to others.
Mm,
That's what I'm hearing. I'm
yeah.
hearing that you get your part of your joy from knowing that you've helped and that it's made a difference. It's not that the organizational's mission is not at the top of the heap here. It is. It always has to be.
Hmm.
And yet, if we're doing that in concert with helping others along, and I don't care really almost who it is, I have heard this time and time again that when people talk about success, it's about helping others succeed.
Yeah. For
And
me, it definitely is.
and I love that. And the leaders that build, I believe, the healthiest cultures inside organizations are those that derive that pleasure from helping and helping others. A lot of times leaders, are more skewed towards just driving for the goalposts,
Hmm.
at all costs, because that is often reinforced in
Yeah.
terms of what's rewarded and what society recognizes as reward.
Yeah.
Yet, even in the most for profit public organizations, this thread of helping and making a difference to people,
Hmm.
it just runs through the vast majority of leaders, and you've articulated it so beautifully in those examples. So remember, folks, it's a
It's
shared thought.
It
Yeah,
is. It's something that I think cuts through the rest. It could save hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars. We could launch something to however many people across the world, win a national championship, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I think it's fundamental that every human wants to be heard, seen, and loved, and cared about, and acknowledged, and that their work has meaning and purpose.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so shifting to a moment that you felt was not as successful. Because
Stephanie.
we learned, sorry.
There's been so many.
Oh, you're hard on yourself. No, we If you
It's
don't make
true.
mistakes, you're not out there on the fringe, right? Making it happen.
Completely. Yeah, I was thinking through this and having a good chuckle at most most of the failures I've had. It's been everything from like I sent bad data to an executive team, or I run an event and no one shows up. I gave someone bad advice. I was silent when I should have spoken up. I've been ignored or dismissed or passed over. I've had years working on an initiative just to have it shut down.
Mm,
I've had to lay off my team before laying off myself. There's been so many moments that really sucked
yeah,
in the
yeah.
process. And I think reflecting on this question, I really had the privilege to learn fast from
Mm,
them and learn from others' mistakes. And again, I think, yeah, one of the smartest things I've done is just commit to and contribute to learning communities where I can make sure I'm not walking into something without the skills and support I really need to get it done. And that's probably helped buffer me some from any true gigantic disasters. But a couple of things happen, when you're in positional leadership. And as your leadership elevates, the first thing is the stakes get higher, right? You have more responsibilities, the impact and the risks you're taking are bigger.
yes.
The second thing is that your influence to shape and set the culture and operational norms to create an environment where people can learn from failures quickly amplifies too. And so when I think about just all the so many failures I've had, big and small, I also think of the opportunity I have now to create the space for other people to learn more effectively and fail more effectively
Mm,
in whatever leadership they're taking on, whether it's positional or just behavioral leadership and their day to day experiences with their team, with their coworkers, and how they shape their relationship to failure, I think
love
matters.
It's powerful because there are organizations, and this is again kind of harkens back to the learning community concept that you were talking about earlier. This culture internally, as well as the culture externally, that fights against what you just spoke about so well, which is if we don't have environments that allow people to fail quickly,
Mm-hmm.
safely,
Yeah.
and then learn from it,
Mm-hmm.
then we inevitably will never be innovative,
No.
never get to
No.
our stretch goals or even our regular ones.
Yep. You can't be an effective leader if you don't have a good relationship with failure.
Yes, I'm going to quote you. Is quotable.
It's
I love that
necessary.
remark. I love that remark. It's powerful because that again, after working with so many leaders, as I know you have, and I have, my experience is that people are often so afraid of being wrong.
Yeah.
There's so
Yeah.
much pressure to know, to act, even if you don't. Like you know the answer,
Yep.
or you have the answer, or you've got it all under control. And the vulnerability of being willing to ask, the vulnerability of saying, I made a mistake and I feel badly about it, and I've learned this and I'm
Mm-hmm.
moving on. That is really culturally huge.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
huge. And in very many environments, people do not feel safe
Yeah.
to fail.
Mm-hmm. And it's
Even
real. Your
it's
job
very
is
real.
under threat, your performance rating is under threat, your all kinds of things. It feels terrible. You feel nauseous and sick, and you're up at night with insomnia.
Yes.
It
Yes.
has a real effect on people, and I like to preach to my staff and team members. The recovery is actually more important than the failure. How are you going to learn your way through this? This is now a professional
Great.
development opportunity for you.
Yes.
However much money it costs in that failure, that's how much we're investing in your professional development right now. Like we're learning from this together. And it matters so much that, we can recover it. I see the same thing with belonging. When I teach about belonging, everybody wants to have this sense of belonging. Belonging is never stable. It's a constant cycle of learning how to return to a state of belonging. And I think the same thing
Mm,
with failure. It's a
mm.
constant cycle of learning how to return and recover from failure.
A lot of wisdom there. A lot of wisdom. And I also heard in your tone, like we're whatever it cost us, we're going to use to learn and develop. That's like,
Yeah,
you better learn, baby, because
we're
this.
going to learn together because part of this is probably on me too. Like,
Oh,
we're never learning alone in those instances.
oh, that's great. So you come up alongside as well.
Yeah.
And those are the specific examples that I think leaders often, great leaders often practice. They don't necessarily talk about it so specifically, but
Hmm.
they do practice it. And so that those environments are freer, not to be laissez-faire about, our decisions or take action, which of course you're not saying, but
Yeah.
so to really utilize and make the opportunity powerful for learning. And who else is involved in this one? That's
Yeah.
great. That's great. Thank you. Thank you.
Many fun failures in hindsight, of course.
Oh, yeah. So let's talk about tough choices. When you've had to face something that was hard for you, that was scary maybe, or risky, very risky, and how you made your way through one or two of those.
Yeah. And I want to lead with gratitude here, Stephanie. It was such a helpful and joyful activity for me to really think through this question. And then I really started from the place of like, okay, well, what makes a decision tough? Before I even answer the question, like, how do
Mm,
I know if it's a tough decision?
mm,
And for me, that came down to, well, my emotional response to it and emotional intelligence I have around the circumstances, the contexts that are going on, my skill or competence level, my ability to actually step in and solve the problem makes it tough. And then ultimately, the impact that I think it might have on other people are the things that I will tend to weigh when I think, what's going to make this decision tough. Being in the role in kind of human resources, people operations space, I think just wearing that hat is a tough role, with a lot of tough decisions inherently embedded into it. As you know, you've been in the seat before and worked with many leaders. It's more than just wearing multiple hats. It's like running a hat shop. There
it's a
are
good analogy.
very few roles in organizational life that actually see across an entire organization.
Hmm.
Most folks are like in their lane, maybe working cross functionally, but really focused inside the parameters of their specialized area. I don't know that it's for everybody, but for me, it's also a role where you feel the entire organization and you witness the best of the best moments and the worst parts of organizational life too. And so it's tough to make all of those micro decisions, because not many roles have the responsibility to see and really hold the entirety, the whole of a system and organization. And it's just nonstop negotiating choices and emotional labor. So I think that in itself is a super challenging role. But when I really sat with this question, Steph, that what came up to me was I don't even think I've had my toughest choices yet. When I think back to all the ones that were hard at the time, I think we're in a moment in time now where those tough choices are really coming to life more than I ever thought they may. My career, just by the age, the demographic, the industries that I've been in over the past 2 decades, have really been nothing but radical change, existential change going on. Growing up in an analog world and then entering the workforce with the explosion of the internet, living through 9/11, beginning to lead through that, the pandemic, severe political polarization, artificial intelligence, what we're going through now as a country and as a world. So I fully expect that my toughest choices are ahead of me. And I smile because I love a challenge and I know it'll be hard, but I believe there's joy in that too, and coming together to solve the tough choices, not alone again. And I imagine that some of those tough choices are going to be things I've never even dreamed of yet, or those choices didn't even exist, 10 years ago to make. And so I'm just like holding some anticipation in my heart that I have the strength and constitution in those moments and community to, like you said, step in with the courage during those moments.
Well, as usual, I mean, you've just taken us through history recently in a way that was so easy to track and understand. And I think that there's this place inside of us that, as you believe that your toughest choices are ahead of you, and I think that's a realistic point of view because, things are certainly heightened from a tension standpoint and a demand standpoint. I'm wondering if in the course of your life, though it doesn't have to be one specific example, what you've drawn upon when you have felt uncertain, felt the risk of the
Mm-hmm.
decision, and where inside of you, besides any resources you might access, where inside, what do you draw from? Because I think that
Mm-hmm.
might, because I know it's there. I've seen it in you. So I'm just curious what that prompt brings up for you.
Yeah. Externally, I'm pretty quick to phone a friend, to call on my community, because again, I believe there's not a lot new under the sun, and someone's gone through this before that I know that I can tap into, or someone I know knows someone who's gone through this before, who I'm sure is happy to share their wisdom. So tapping into just the wealth of collective knowledge that's available out here in the world, and build those relationships, because I've often find people want to have your back. They want to support you.
Yeah.
There's lots of narratives of people, being competitive with each other, but I think when we're genuinely asking and really shaping community, we want to help each other. I want to help people too. And then internally, I think just always coming back to my philosophy and mission and values and purpose. Like, what am I doing here on this planet? Why am I
Yes.
waking up every morning and going to work and choosing this life and this job to, the extent that I'm able to? And so constantly staying anchored in that, and really tapping into when something is off alignment with my values, and then to push to see if we can realign, if it's a decision that's being made or a circumstance that's occurring, or if I don't know, just like sitting in the moment of, I don't know, and not trying to solve it immediately, but to give it space to have its own existence, just to say like, yeah, I really don't know, and this is hard, and it's okay for me to just like take a beat and pause and allow the space for what it feels like to be uncertain. Because if I bypass that, I'm unlikely to make the best decisions possible
Yeah.
in my experience. I really need that moment to live into, to feel into, to breathe into, to move into the totality of what's happening. And if I shut myself off from that, I don't I don't usually make my best decisions. So just to take the time that's needed to just say, oof, or oh shit, or whatever it might be.
Yes.
Breathe, whether it's 5 minutes or an hour or a weekend or a week or whatever, and then get back at it and figure something out step by step.
Thank you. Again, a characteristic again of top leaders, very successful leaders who are people leaders, not meaning just in the role,
Mm-hmm.
but literally are devoted to moving people together forward to accomplish what we need to and growing along the way, is this thread of who am I?
Mm-hmm.
And stopping, pausing, getting the external advice, as you said, and I think reiterating that it can't be enough to reach out to others. And then if you're not knowing, you don't have to act. And then who am I? Who am I? Who are
Mm-hmm.
you? Are you connected to who you are? And it sounds like you keep, and it's kind of like you were describing belonging,
Mm-hmm.
have to keep reconnecting to ourselves
All the time.
to remember who are we anyway, right?
All the time.
Yes. Who am I anyway? I get lost sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
We get off course. We feel out of, it's kind of like a three-legged stool, I think about values, like the top values that we hold. If one of the three isn't there, the stool tips.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we need to remember who we are and then have that courage to move
Yeah.
forward, even in the face of what might feel like disaster. And
Yeah.
it depends on who you are. One small mistake might feel like a disaster to some,
Mm-hmm.
and losing, a division might be a disaster to others.
Completely.
And but the process is the same.
Yeah.
The process is the same. So thank you for sharing that. So just, to wind this lovely conversation up, what do you think leaders need the most these days?
Mm. There's so many like tactical things or skills that I've heard folks want, but I think what they need most is just the right space to gather for
Mm,
them to feel the heard, the seen, the loved, to do those things, to like pause and ask, who am I again? And who am I now? Even if who I am was certain last year, it could be different today. To check in with their values, to have space to learn and grow, to count on one another again, because leadership, especially positional leadership, comes with just massive responsibility and weight and risk and fortitude, and it's exhausting. And so space to truly recover, to have colleagues, to have real joy, to re-find hope, to regenerate their own passion for leadership. I think just more spaces to gather and really connect.
beautifully said. Beautifully said. Thank you. Well, I anticipated this conversation, with a joyful heart, to reflect your philosophy of intention. And it's always wonderful to connect with you, Kat. And there are lots of nuggets contained in your thoughts and your experiences. And I so appreciate you and taking this time. Thank you so much.
Thank you too, Steph. This is a perfect example of what I was just talking about, you creating some of that space for leaders to just connect, to talk about things, to reflect, to have a moment to check in and say, who am I again? So you're doing it, and I deeply appreciate it.
Well, that makes me happy, because if it helps, that's what it's all about. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. To hear more conversations with leaders, please subscribe to The Toughest Choice wherever you listen to podcasts. For updates, please connect with me on LinkedIn. This is Stephanie Reynolds. Thanks for listening.